was your main kind of dream growing up as a child? Was it to be a pop star? Was it to be a racing driver? What was it?
Never to be a pop star for sure, but more on the car side of things. To drive race cars was definitely an ultimate for me. I grew up watching my dad drive race cars. I had my father's trophies in my window as a kid, almost like they were mine. I knew I wanted to kind of go down that path somehow. Cars is it's in my DNA. And I guess the beginning for that was kind of motor mechanics. Yeah. My dad had his own workshop, and I got kicked out of school pretty early. I was about 15, just turning 16 at the time, I think. I got kicked out and went to work for my dad, and that was pretty much where I was heading for, to go and take over family business. That was going to be my life.
When you were kicked out of school, did you realize at that stage you were dyslexic?
No. I didn't realize at all. I knew I had a problem. I couldn't read and write. I could count money though. Yeah. Didn't have a problem there. And I think that whole period of my schooling years, it was difficult. I'm not going to lie, they were difficult times for my kind of inner self. I was a very shy kid anyway. I got away with a lot in school because of charm. I was a nice kid. I wasn't a troublemaker, I guess was the difference. A lot of people with dyslexia fall into different categories, but certainly being troublemaker is one. But I didn't. I was more of a strategist, and I'd try to figure out how I survived in school and what was the best way to do that. Mostly cheating, of course, off your good friends, and mostly I kind of did I wouldn't call it a protection racket, but I was a big guy in school, not a bully, but I was more the protector. So I looked after those in the class who were the smart kids, and then they looked after me with delivering homework and stuff like that. I got through by the skin of my teeth. I eventually got kicked out because I didn't do anything in school, because I didn't bring books. I didn't bring pens and paper and pads and copies. I didn't bring them in because I couldn't use them.
What age were you when you finally discovered, I'm dyslexic, I need some kind of support here?
Funny enough, only about 5 years ago.
Right.
I took it upon a journey with myself and a TV. I think it was Channel 5. It could have been Channel 5. I wanted to go and figure out this dyslexia. What is it and how is it? And do I have it? Mm-hmm. And I went to so many different amazing schools, prisons, millionaires, and all who are dyslexic. And the spectrum of that is quite incredible. And meaning there's no line that defines dyslexia. It's not like you go above it, oh you are, or you're below it, you're not. It's a kind of a thing where you either have it in a small, minute amount or massively. And that's why there's no line there. So it's a difficult one to figure out how you determine that's the case in your life. But I met so many incredible people who, like the prisoners. The reasons why they're in prison is because the fear of going to fill out, and this is how simple it is, to fill out a job application. Yeah. They're afraid to do that because they can't read and write it and do all that kind of stuff. So they turn to crime. 68% of prisoners were dyslexic, which is crazy. Yeah. But then the other side of the statistics are something like 40% of self-made millionaires are dyslexic. So the brain for someone with dyslexia works very much in a 3D pattern. You visualize the whole kind of thing and you can see it, as opposed to a lot of people's brains just see what's in front of them. A dyslexic brain just visualize the whole way in the distance, left and right. They kind of see a lot of different things. So millionaires in business strategies can see deep into the world of their business. And you kind of use the brain that way or you don't. So it was an amazing journey for that reason. And I get to the point of I went to then go get tested. Yes. And it was one of the scariest days of my life. I nearly didn't do it. The fear of, like when I was going to the examining room or whatever the case may be, I was driving to London, and everything in my body, I was angry. Because I remember the fear. It was going to do another test in school, and the anger and the frustration I had. And I couldn't believe what it did to me mentally. And the camera was there. And at some point, I told the cameraman to get out of my car. Like I was aggressive, proper aggressive. That's how much fear it kind of set in me. But I kind of pushed on through it. And it's one of the best things I ever did. Because I came out with a certificate. Yeah. to say, yeah, I'm dyslexic, which is weird to go, yes, I am, you know what I mean, to be championing such a thing. But it was a massive relief. It was a relief because all those years, I really did have a problem.
Did that kind of fear come out in the Boyzone days as well? Because the press kind of labelled you for a while as the bad boy of Boyzone.
They did, because without a doubt, visually, I had my own individuality within that group. And that was, again, one of my survival tactics within the group of Boyzone, because if you watch any early days of the 90s interviews with Boyzone, I don't speak unless I'm spoken to. Yes. I'm not the one who interjects with comments on any of the questions. I'll just hold back and say nothing. And I don't really know why I did that. I just became the silent, deadly type. Yeah. And then that manifested into my visual looks, and hence tattoos and just the way I am now. But back in the 90s, it would have been very more on the hip hop side of, because that was my musical love, you know, and reggae and hip hop. So I just kind of started, I dressed that way, I'd be that way. I was full of gold and earrings and nose rings and all that kind of stuff. I liked that look. It spoke volumes within the band, and I didn't have to speak. So I kind of, again, being a strategist, made that happen within the band.
How many tattoos have you got?
You know, I've been getting tattooed since I'm 15 years old. After I got kicked out of school, my very first wage packet as a car mechanic, I remember going on the 29A from where I lived in Dublin, heading into city centre to buy it. I was actually going in to buy a set of trainers that I loved and adored. And for some reason, I was by myself. I was on a bus, I passed a tattoo parlour, and I just went, yeah, I think I want one of those. Ding, ding, got off the bus, went in. It was about 12 o'clock in the day, and the guy said, are you 18? I said, I am. Okay, sit down in a chair. And my first tattoo was like a filly, a horse, like a prancing horse. And the reason why I got it is because when I was a young kid, to earn money down at a caravan site we used to go to, I used to collect golf balls in this lake. I used to go in and feel around with your feet, you pick them up, and then you'd sell a bunch of golf balls back to the golfers. A little pocket money thing. So always trading in life. I was always into money and trading in life. But it was this guy, his name was Paul Butler, and he was the kind of king golf ball collector. You know what I mean? He was the best out of the bunch. And he was quite a few years older than us. And he had a tattoo of a horse on his leg. And I always remember as a kid going, wow, that's amazing. And that was my inspiration for tattoos. I went in, I went, yeah, Paul Butler, that was cool. I'll have one of them, boom. So I picked a horse for that reason.
Is there room for any more?
Yeah, I've got room. Yeah, in fact, I'm getting tattoos on tattoos at the moment. And they're not even cover-ups, they're just joining in and painting over paintings, I guess. But I've probably got maybe 50 odd hours of tattooing.
Where's the most painful place to be tattooed?
Tattoos are an amazing thing of your pain thresholds and barriers can be very different on different days. And it's to do with your emotions, it's to do with your glucose levels, it's to do with how get up and go you are today, or how I don't feel so good today, like any kind of work day. And some days I can sit there and take 5 hours of tattooing, and some I can take only 30 minutes, and I've got to tap out. And it just depends on what you're at. But for me, every tattoo hurts. Those guys who go in there and say, yeah, no problem. There's some that are less painful, but they're all very, very painful. So I will hold my hands up. I've shed tears. Get tattoos. Like, I've weeped, you know what I mean, with the pain. But I think my neck is probably one of the most extreme things. Probably right here on the throat, I mean, under my lovely stubble. It goes all the way up to my chin. But I think right here is a pretty disgusting thing to have in life. You can't swallow, you can't move, you can't, because he's pushing on your windpipe, and it's a merciful pain. Like, it's the most ridiculous thing. Like, honestly, if I didn't have any tattoos, I would hate to start again. Like, I would gladly never get tattooed. But now I've gone this far, I'm a working piece of art, and I will keep on going. I think my wife, she said, please do not tattoo your face. Right. But I like my art and I like my visuals, and it is something I'm starting to get into. I don't know how far I'll go or extreme I'll go with tattooing my face, but at some point in life, it's very possible I will.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll probably get divorced, but however, it's possible I will.
Do you still cringe when you look back at a first Late Late Show appearance?
Not cringe, because I'm a big man now, you know. I'm 41 years old, and to look back at that 17-year-old kid with a hope, a dream, and more to the point, I think the nuts to go out and do it. Musical tastes for me were more kind of reggae, hip hop, and that kind of thing. So now I'm in this boy band, singing and dancing. I was a car mechanic. I drove street race cars, you know, illegally, you know. So I wasn't particularly boy band material, if whatever that is. Yeah. And for me to find myself sitting there in this place was very strange. But you know what? I just kind of got on with it, went and did it. And I think that Late Late Show is, I look at it and I think, well done, boys. Like we were shocking. you know, you look at it and think, how did they become one of the biggest bands in the world? And we did. That show, you know, kind of messed us up in a massive way, but then did us the big favor. Like we were only picked as the auditions, and the finalized, this is a band, everyone read about it in the newspaper, and this is the final guys. And when we got to the Late Late Show, we were just meant to be announced, here the boys are, they're gonna go off, they're gonna do whatever rehearsals, I don't know, get in the studio. But Gayborn wasn't happy about that. He said, well, we want them to do something. So we didn't really know each other too well, let alone do anything together. So the best of our abilities as young kids, we were like, well, should we do a little dance or something, put a little routine together, you know? I said, we're not choreographers, we're not dancers. Like I said, I'm a car mechanic. And so we pulled this little thing in half an hour out of the bag, which it's hilarious to watch. But it did catapult us across every front newspaper of Ireland, because it was shocking.
All right, folks. In the year 2000, about breaking up. I tell you what, we're Dubliners, we're Irish, and we'll be here for a long time.
You were the biggest boy band of the 90s, 25 million records you sold. Like all boy bands, it has to come to an end at some time, and it did in the year 2000. And that kind of sent you in kind of dark period of your life, didn't it?
Funny enough, I was already dark. Right. And it was probably what saved my life. Because that whole character that I built within Boyzone, that silent, mysterious bad boy that people kind of labeled me as, I was already there. And I guess 7 years in the industry back in the 90s was a lifetime in the industry. And it was 24/7. And it was 3 countries in one day. And it was studio to radio to magazine to photo shoot to concert to records. You know, it was a constant stream of work. And when you landed in Germany, they didn't care how hard you worked in the UK. They were going to work you just as hard, because that's their territory and they need to pull everything out of you. When you left Germany and landed in Spain, same thing. And that's what was so grueling and monotonous about it all. And at some point, I didn't care where I was in the world. Like, I didn't care what country I was in. It meant nothing to me. You know, and my mother, I fed up with my dad over this, actually. Because, you know, when I spoke to my dad, he's like, you know, where have you been? Don't know. What do you mean? You don't? Well, how can you not know it? It's not that I didn't know, I didn't care. I didn't have the capacity in my brain to want to tell, I'm in this lovely city, and this, that, and the other, and it's all beautiful. You had no time for that.
And you were sharing bills with people like Michael Jackson, Mariah Carey, people like that. Did that mean nothing?
Didn't care who was sat next to you. I mean, we did. We shared stages with these people. We sang, you know, with a lot of charity records around different European times with Pavarotti and, as you say, Mariah Carey, Michael Jackson, Joe Cocker, and all the greats of the world. It didn't mean nothing to me. And one of the reasons for that too is because I was never, as a kid, dreamt to be that rock star, pop star in that world anyway. So I didn't have much interest in those kind of people in music anyway. So I was just there doing a job. And my job was Boyzone. And my job was to make up numbers. And I was cool with that. I was fine doing that. But I just slipped into a weird dark place where I guess I was angry. And probably, weirdly enough, very, very lonely. So although I have my four other brothers with me, the boys. And although you stood on stage in front of 20,000 people, but it was a lonely place.
Who were you closest to in the band back then?
Me and Ro were quite close for a long time, then me and Keith, and without a doubt towards the latter parts of Boyzone, me and Stephen. Like me and Theo, we were very, very close. He was older than I, but he was my little brother, you know what I mean? And I kind of took him under my wing, and I was always there to look after him, you know what I mean? Definitely there to look after him, because Theo was an amazing character. He didn't really particularly care about the reality of the world. He lived in this fantasy world, mostly the whole Disney kind of things, you know. He loved Disneyland, and he lived in Disneyland in his head. And right enough, he's so lucky that he lived life like that, because it was magical for him all the time. And we were in this band called Boyzone, which is a magical thing anyway. For any normal punter to come from where we came from, pretty humble backgrounds, all of us, pretty working class, and be catapulted into champagne, caviar, private jets, you know, is magical in itself. So he lived the extra magical kind of world, which was great. And he didn't understand a lot of the outside stuff, so he needed a lot of protecting.
Yeah. And obviously today, when you're standing back on stage with the guys, you must miss him terribly.
Yeah, we miss Theo. I mean, for us, I think, or for me, definitely, Boyzone, although we are 4 as it stands, but we will always be 5. And no matter where we go, what studio, musical studio, making studio, what concert, what stage we stand on, or what, he is our world of Boyzone. And when he died, it was quite obviously a shock for many people. We're in this kind of dilemma or predicament of, we were making an album at the time. We were actually halfway through making this album. And well, do we stop and call it a day? Can we continue on without Theo? Is it over for us? And a lot of us were like, yeah, we didn't want to go on without Theo, because we were Boyzone as 5. And then the more we got together after he died, for whatever reasons we were doing, it was very apparent to us that when you leave it alone, it's an empty space for us, and we're with our wives and our families and stuff. But when we come back together as that group, Theo's massively alive. Like, he's massively a part of our world. And that's one of the reasons, probably the biggest reason why we continued on, because actually the reason we're still going is for the love of Theo. And that's when we're the closest to him, because our stories that we share, our fun times, like we can't get past a few hours without the remembering, oh, I remember Theo done this, or Theo done that, and that's what keeps him alive for us. And you know, we all lose people we love. There's never the right time to lose someone who you love. You know, it's not like, oh, I would have liked another 10 years. Are you going to feel different in 10 years? Less love or less hurt when someone passes? Of course you're not. So there's never a good time. So I think as people, we just have to grab a hold of ourselves. And it's okay to be shedding tears. It's okay to feel hurt and pain. You love someone, so of course you can. But you have to then grab a hold of yourself, and you have to move forward, because no one's going to do it for you to start with. And the person who has passed, they're past now, and they're not going to help you either. So you're your own victim in many cases of that. And you got to get up and go. And that's what we did as Boyzone. We got up and we continued on. And we're delighted we did that, because forever alive he will be in our hearts, for sure. And certainly for the fans who adored him and loved him. And when we go and do concerts, of course, we tribute some part of the concert to him. We have his voice, we have his visions, you know, and it's an amazing time on stage for us too. We love it. We relive. He's alive when that happens. So,
your Christian faith's very important to you. How do we say this? Did you become a born again Christian, or how do you kind of describe that period of your life?
I went through, as you spoke, you know, those dark times when I was angry, lonely, and that kind of stuff. And I went through a really, when I say dark period, I mean dark, messing with the dark side. And I know a lot of people don't understand that. They don't really think about demons, are they real? Angels, are they real? All that kind of thing. I know the dark side, and I've been there. I've danced with the devil himself. And when I was in that type of life, that angry side of life, it near on destroyed me, like proper nearly destroyed me. And because I knew the dark side, it meant there has to be a light side. Yeah. There has to be God. And I went on this journey of changing my ways of life. And all through a really good friend of mine, a really good friend called Benefedu. He's a singer from Fats and Smalls. Yeah. Yeah. And he was always just an amazing soul. But later into the years of 2000s when Boyzone split, I got back into my own kind of vanity projects of music. But I was still a dark guy. But this individual, Ben, he lived for a different reason than I did. I had everything I could ever possibly desire in terms of materialistic things, that means. But still I was the most empty soul inside. Again, being lonely, being angry. And this guy, he was happy and he had something to live for. And the way he spoke about life was amazing. So I started to prod and ask questions. And he just spoke, when I say he spoke Bible to me, all I simply mean by that is he didn't quote verses from the Bible per se, but as the Bible speaks in parables, it's revealed to you in certain times what certain stories mean. And he started to speak about stories like that, and it started to connect to me as a person. And then I couldn't get enough of it. Like I couldn't get it, because it started to fill me with joy. Yeah. So that's why I was like, whoa, I've never felt like this before. And I just kept going, kept grabbing. And then eventually I ended up with my good wife now. Her brother's a pastor. And I ended up going to like a Bible class. Again, which is not to learn the Bible in a passage as you would a book, but the Bible class is just about explaining the parables and what that story means. And the more I listened, I was fascinated. And I was getting taken out of the dark side, and I was literally coming to the light, quite literally coming to the light, and how I felt as my soul, as my journey. And I eventually became a born-again Christian. I come in, that's probably 13 years ago, maybe more. So is God real? Very much so, in my life. Yeah. It's a relationship, it's a friendship, and you have to build that within your world of God and your world of Jesus. You have to go and do that. And I did, very much so.
We talked earlier about your love of fast cars. You've done the supercar thing recently, the TV show. That must have been so much fun to do.
Cars is an addiction for me. It's a bit of an illness, to be fair. I've spent more money in everything I've earned on cars and lost so much money on cars.
Have you got a garage full of fast cars at home?
Do you know, I try to get rid of them all the time. I know it's a ridiculous thing to say, but I sell them and I go, right, I'm over it. And then one has to pass me on the street and I'm like, oh my God, I love that car, I want that car. Yeah, it's a horrible addiction for cars, but a really nice one at the same time. It does give me so much joy. Amazingly for me, yeah, I landed that TV show called Supercar Mega Build. It's a global show. It's on Nat Geo, National Geographic, and I never realized how big that was. My show went out to 200 million people. Wow. You know, that's what Supercar Mega Build goes out to, 200 million people. And you kind of think, wow, but this goes out to 200 million people, and I was mind blown by that.
You're getting to drive at speeds of like 200 miles an hour and stuff, weren't you?
We did so many crazy things. The ultimate thing of the show is I've got a boss, he's the money man, and there's myself, the driver, and then I have my fabricator. And the boss man has his clients, his global clients, and funny enough, I was a client of his back in, I know him since early 2000s, buying supercars. So that was a nice kind of match that actually we had a relationship anyway. So he has these global clients and he sells supercars too, but then also he has nut jobs like me who like to build crazy cars. So we kind of teamed up together and I built the cars for the client with my fabricator Dan, and it's a great concept. He never likes the cars we build. Maybe one he did in all of 8. But it's a great dynamic, it's a great show. It's always fast-paced, it's colourful. It was one of the nicest shows I've ever seen the UK make, because a lot of the UK shows, they start in a garage and they end up at Silverstone. That is their money shot. Yes, yeah. We start at Silverstone and we end up in Mexico or in LA or in, you know, there's beauty in the show that we make. A very expensive show to make, actually. So, but I'm just waiting on the news for Series 3 to come in to crack on.
You're into your fashion as well, and I know you're here today to launch a clothing range. How did all that come about?
I've been, funny enough, involved in different fashion or clothing for a long time. My first clothing label I ever owned was in 2004. I bought into a company called Evolution Fightwear, and it still trades today. So it's basically MMA, which is mixed martial arts, and this is when MMA was only growing. Obviously, Conor McGregor, everyone knows what MMA is right now. I'm hoping eventually it becomes massive and on trend, because to be trading for that many years is hard to do in any kind of label, and we're still going. It's a good company. And then I think around 5 years ago or so, ended up making different boxer short range, jean range. A lot of them went to America mostly. I didn't deal this side of the water because the Americans liked it, loved it, and bought it. So this side of the water now is this venture that I'm going on. We're about a year into it. So this is actually probably our year's anniversary in around now, which is really good. We initially started with shoes. And why? Because, let's be truthful, there's hard times out there for everybody. And a lot of the shops and retail shops and everything you go into, you pay a lot of money. Yeah. You pay a lot of money for things. Yeah. And if you don't have to, then I believe, why should you? They're all Italian leather, all handmade, all that kind of stuff. And our suits, they're good cuts. The problem is you can go into any high street store and pay a lot of money for a good cut suit. And again, we're giving you the quality, the value, everything for certainly less than half price and probably a third of the price. And that scares people sometimes. Yeah. They think, oh, well, it's not good. Yeah. No, the opposite. I believe people deserve to look good for less money. Yeah. And who's going to do it for them? Well, I'm going to do it for them. It's grown massively in the first year, above and beyond kind of our expectations, which we know it's a good thing. And we know we're doing the right thing. And we know people are going to look good, look sharp.
We're nearly out of time. Before we go, looking ahead to next year, Boyzone are back. 25th anniversary. There's going to be a tour. There's going to be an album, isn't there?
We're in the studio right now. We're about 7 songs into our album, our new album. A few more to go. Working with some amazing producers. The record is sounding good. Like, it's the best album we've made. I've not liked some albums. Like, I'll be truthful. I've made music and gone, I do not like that.
Which Boyzone song did you really hate?
No Matter What.
We'll find our own way back.
Really?
Yeah. You know, the biggest Boyzone record ever is No Matter What. I hate it. I absolutely hate it. But only because it's, I don't know, I just, that song does my head in. And amazingly enough, it's such a magical song for so many other people. Lyrically, I know it means a lot to a lot of people. But for me, in the band, I hate that song. You still do. Every time we play it on stage, and I'm very open about that. I like being open and honest about things. I don't know how to dance to it. I don't know how to move. I don't really know what to do in that song. It's just a weird song on stage. And I'm like, man, is this already? So yeah, I think. But from now on in, with this new album, we kind of have this new concept, which is the album is kind of like a playlist or a shuffle album. You've got 4 people in Boyzone with very different musical tastes. So I've got my 3 records on there that I would make. Right. As if I was an artist in a different kind of band, these are the records I would make. Yeah. And then the same for the rest of the boys. We all have our 3 records. And as it turns out, it's the best thing we've ever did, because the album is so diverse. It's who Boyzone are 25 years in music and as individuals. And it's a good album.
Brilliant. Shane, it's been great talking to you. As always, good luck with the Amen clothing.
Thank you.
And of course, good luck with 25 years of Boyzone. Look forward to the album and the tour.
Amen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.